I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Today, we're reading in Mark chapter 6. You know, one of the titles that Matthew gives Jesus is Son of David. And from the line of David, the Messiah, Jesus, is our good shepherd. David is known as the shepherd of Israel, but the Messiah is known as the good shepherd. And the good shepherd came to redeem the lost sheep of Israel. Now, perhaps one of the most well-known Davidic songs is Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd. And not only is Psalm 23 poetic and beautiful, but it's also prophetic. And here in Mark chapter 6, better than anywhere else, we see David's prophecy of Jesus' ministry being fulfilled. And let's look at these two passages side by side. David said in Psalm 23, verse 1, at the very beginning, he says, "The Lord is my shepherd." But look at what we see in Mark chapter 6, verse 34. He says, "He saw a huge crowd and had compassion on them because they were like sheep without a shepherd." The second half of Psalm 23, verse 1 says, "There is nothing that I lack." But watch this in Mark chapter 6. He says, "And when it was already late, his disciples approached him and said, 'This place is a wilderness, and it's already late. Send them away so that they can go into the surrounding countryside and the villages in order to buy something for themselves to eat.' And then Jesus said, 'You give them something to eat.'" In Psalm 23, verse 2, David writes, "He makes me lie down in green pastures." But look at what it says in Mark chapter 6, verse 39. And Jesus instructed the disciples to have all of the people lie down in groups in the green grass. Psalm 23, the second half of verse 2 says, "He leads me beside quiet waters." But look here in Mark chapter 6, verses 33 and 34. He says, "People ran there by the land from all of the towns, and they arrived ahead of him. So as he stepped ashore, he saw the crowds, and he had compassion on them." Psalm 23, verse 3 begins in this way, "He restores my life," or "He restores my soul." But Mark chapter 6, verse 42 says, "Everyone ate and was filled." Then it says in Psalm 23, verse 3, he says this, "He guides me in the paths of righteousness for my name's sake." And in Mark chapter 6, verse 34, he says, "And then he began to teach them many things." You know, perhaps as you continue to read and compare Mark 6 with Psalm 23, maybe you'll see some similarities of Jesus' shepherding even in your own life. I'm Steve Wiggins, and this is the Groundworks Ministries podcast. Check us out at www.groundworksministries.com.